And so we felt it was really important that you heard different voices. So we've asked 3 ladies in the house this morning to just come and share a little bit of their testimony. We're so aware of how impactful they can be. So would you all help them, offer them a smile when they come up? It's really daunting to come up here and offer part of your testimony. So what we're going to do is Ruth's going to tell you a little bit about their testimony before, and then I'm going to ask them a couple of questions that will quite nicely lead into what we really want to speak about this morning. So Ruth, do you want to come up first and come and give the first story? Thank you.
Okay, so Lydia. 15 years ago, Lydia embarked on a career in nursing. The children were young, Mark was training to be a teacher, and they were both settling into their new careers with a young family. Lydia explored palliative care and became a specialist nurse and eventually a clinical nurse specialist in this area. It was a stable but emotionally demanding role, being present as families say final goodbyes to loved ones. Palliative care is extremely rewarding, but it is also incredibly intense. And studies have shown if you're working in this area, it can result in a low level of PTSD for individuals. 2 years ago, Lydia moved out of hospice care into acute hospital setting, and then COVID hit. She applied with encouragement for a promotion in the second wave of COVID and moved across into the community team in November 2020 and took a role in palliative care. She'd worked hard to get to this point, and the training and the interviews had been very intense, but almost instantly she knew it was the wrong decision. This was the start of her journey. She made the difficult decision to hand her notice in after Christmas 2020 and was suddenly facing 2021 with no job and lots of uncertainty. She knew she couldn't make the decision to end her nursing career as she wasn't in the right frame of mind. So while she was on sick leave, she completed the vaccine training for the COVID rollout and worked at the Black Country Museum as a clinical supervisor for the programme for around 6 months. She then heard from a friend who had encouraged her to get back into palliative care and applied for another hospice job. But again, after 4 or 5 months, she knew she couldn't stay. She was beginning to understand that when God wants you to leave something, He will keep bringing you back to the same point. Can we welcome Lydia up to the stage?
Thank you so much, Lydia, for agreeing to do this. You're welcome. The first question that we want to ask you today is, what did God do through those circumstances?
Okay, so like Ruth said, that's quite a brief overview of the background, I have to say. And I had been struggling for months with the uncertainty and stress of not knowing which way to turn. And you know, when you're in that position and you have no hope, and it can feel really irritating, can't it, when people look like they're doing really well. And Mark, not that Mark's irritating, can I just say, but Mark just kept saying to me, Lyd, it will be okay. I know it will be okay. God has got you, and He has this situation under control. And there was one evening, January 2021, and like Ruth had said, I'd handed my notice in, and I felt desperate. I was crying out to God. I remember very, very clearly kneeling down by my bed in submission and crying out, Lord, please, I know you'll only send me as much as I can take or cope with and handle, but please, and I was begging Him, don't send me any more. Please take this away from me. I can't take any more. I've been battling for so long, and folks, it was a battle, and it felt tough. However, He didn't want to take me away from it because He was taking me through it. I had battled towards a decision to leave my nursing and apply for a job with Safe Families. I don't know whether you've heard of that charity, but they work with families. And it was the end of November last year, and me and Mark had gone away to Broadway in the Cotswolds, and I felt desperately unhappy, and I was frustrated, and we were in this beautiful place. But I was desperately unhappy. I was in my 3rd palliative care post, and I was almost at the point of crying out. I couldn't face going on. I couldn't face that challenge of going through another change of job, another interview, and everything that goes with it. And while we were away and I was feeling in this turmoil, I had a very strong picture, and I saw that I was covered with some kind of heavy blanket, and for years this blanket has been restricting my hands and my feet, and I was unable to move or be free. It was affecting my ability to breathe. I felt compromised, and this whole layer of darkness was affecting my ability to walk freely. And I shared this with Mark, and he prayed for me, and it was what I class a significant moment.
Yeah.
And from that point, I knew that I'd be strong enough to prepare for the interview. I knew that the week was going to be tough. My interview date was the end of that week. And there was no assurance that I'd get the job. It was a completely different thing that I'd ever done. I'd got lots of transferable skills from my nursing to move into that post, but there was no assurances that I'd get it. But I knew that applying for it was the right course of action, and that I had taken a step towards becoming free of something that had bound me for many years.
Great. So the next question that we want to ask you is, what hope would you offer through the story to the ladies here today?
Okay, so when I was asked to do this morning, earlier this week, I almost responded straight away to Ruth, which I think shocked her. I think she thought she might have to work on me a little bit harder, but I said straight away, yes, I'll do that. And the reason being is last Friday I had a few hours annual leave, and I took my dog for a walk, and we were over Highgate Common, and I was just reflecting. Those of you that know me, I reflect all of the time on what they class as a reflective practitioner, but I reflect in my journey with God as well. And I was just reflecting, and my eldest son Luke was due to turn 21 that weekend, and I was just thinking about everybody that's had an impact and an influence on his life, and it just got me round to thinking about everything that's happened to me these last couple of years and years before that, and it just got me thinking about it, and I just felt, you know, the Lord say to me, you will need to share this at some point, and there is so much more to say. This is a tiny little snippet, but it was starting to prepare me really. So when Ruth asked me to speak, it was a strong confirmation for me to do so. And I think everybody has different roles in life, but for me, I hold a lot of my identity in my role that I took on at work. So for being a palliative care nurse, it was my identity. I hid behind it a lot of the time, and God wanted me to find my identity in Him.
Yeah.
For a long time, I fought against that. I half listened to what He was telling me, and folks, it has been a struggle, and it's been a real battle. And my prayers had been, please change me. Lord, change this person that I am. Change my personality, take away this sensitive nature that I have, and the reactions that I have to things, and how I behave to things. But it was only recently when I went to the prayer meeting, the healing service, and I went specifically to pray for my dad and my uncle. But in that time of healing, God was really saying to me, He doesn't want to change me. He wants me to trust Him. He wants me to give my whole self to Him. I am what I am, as the song says, and He's made me this way, and I need to trust Him and hand my worries and anxieties and stresses to Him.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to fulfil the role that I'm in currently. I was successful at interview, and I'm a family support manager now at Safe Families, and if I didn't have all the qualities that God had given me, I wouldn't be able to give back to those families.
Yeah.
It is a work in progress, and I'm no way through the storm, but it is much more settled. I no longer feel alone in the boat. I am surrounded by friends and family who have put up with me and really fought for me as well. And I've got a wonderful supportive team that I'm with now, and they are helping me to just live those values that I hold close to me. And what I will say is, there's been many significant moments along the journey, and I've written them all down. Confirmations, words of encouragement, and I haven't got time to share them with you this morning, but there's so many of scriptures that I've held close to myself. And one of these messages that a very close friend said to me, and I want to leave with you this morning, is after the darkness, the dawn always rises.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lydia. Okay, so our next lovely lady, Julie. Julie works with me and Em at Street Teams, and we're really privileged to have her on our team. She's amazing. She works with our families that are going through a hard time. So, one mum, 2 children living in an area known for gang affiliation. Eldest son was at risk of being groomed into child criminal exploitation through friends. Christmas was coming, mum had no money. Son was offered help. He was offered a job. He had to go to a city, sit in a house for a week, and he'd earn £120 a day, which would solve mum's problems around Christmas. Of course, there was no job. The boy was trafficked. The house was a crack den, and he had to distribute drugs, obviously with no pay. The family had a trouble signal, and the boy managed to send a photo to mum, which gave his location. Mum and a friend drove to that address, pretended to make a drug deal. Then when a son came out to deliver the drugs, they grabbed him, put him in the car and drove home with him. They then put him on a plane to another country to be with family so that he was safe. This didn't end for this mum. This mum and her youngest boy then had to move house. They weren't safe in their home, so they had to flee with literally carry a bag full of clothes. Everything else had to be left behind, and the family ended up homeless, sofa surfing around family and friends for months. They lost everything. Julie, would you like to join us?
You know how comfortable I am doing this, but they said if I didn't do it, they'd sack me. Tissues at the ready. I apologise before I start. Okay.
So this is going to follow the same format as Lydia, and the first question I want to ask you is, what did God do through your circumstances and through this family's circumstances?
Okay. So God did his thing, as he always does. Street teams were already working with the family due to the high risk of exploitation of the young lad. We'd started some months before. It wasn't easy. Mum had an awful life. She didn't trust anyone, particularly professionals, most of all the police, and throughout her journey, most professionals had let her down really badly. The first time I met her, I thought she was going to knock my block off. She certainly didn't make it fun, and her experience with other professionals hadn't been easy. So I took her for a cup of coffee and a piece of cake. She hardly said a word and just sat there looking bored. I chatted, she ignored me, and then I took her home. I arranged to see her again the following week, and the one after that, and the one after that, and the one after that, and every week for the next 3 years. Over time, our relationship built. We tried to meet the needs of our women from the most basic, somewhere to live, food, household goods, through to supporting meetings where they felt they didn't have a voice, and on to empowering them to make their own choices with confidence. God was amazing throughout all of this. He provided what we needed, when we needed it, and who could supply it. Just as an example, when sofa surfing, she called one day to say she didn't have the bus fare to get her son to school. Someone heard a story and gave us the money for a bus pass. It totally blew her mind. She couldn't grasp that someone who didn't know her wanted to help. She thought they were after taking her kids. I explained paying it forward. She still didn't get it. I said, you know what, sometimes people are just kind. Her reply, not in my bleeping world they ain't. We worked with housing, and Mum was given a 2-bedroom flat as soon as COVID restrictions lifted. We were given household items from Provision House. Donations of soft furnishings came in from all over the place. We got a bed from Acts 435 for the younger child who'd had to share a bed with his mum until he was 4. The middle son wanted to go to a local faith school, which was a really good school in the area where they'd moved to. When we initially inquired, Year 7 was full.
and there were 134 on the waiting list. He became the 135th. Within weeks, he moved up and up the list because he'd been attending a church primary school, because he wanted to be baptised, because he had an amazing report from primary school, because his SATs results were amazing, on and on, until the day I was driving to the school with a final appeal for a place, our last-ditch attempt. On the Black Country route, I received a call from his mum. She just received a call from the school. They had a place for him. We didn't even get to the point where the appeal was submitted. Sorry. Whatever the need, we prayed. God provided it. Little miracle, after little miracle, after little miracle.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know what to do.
If you didn't cry, Jules, we'd be really worried. The next question that we want to ask you is, what message of hope would you give to everybody here today through this?
Okay. So, we'll always face challenges and life isn't easy. Sometimes God allows us to experience trials and dark places. During these times, he will send people to help us and support us and to journey with us. The family is now settled and stable with their own home again, away from the area they lived in, as they still can't return there. She's come through so much, and praise God, she's now doing volunteer training with street teams, so she too can pay it forward. She's using her experiences to support those currently going through what her family experienced. She speaks to professionals about how to help parents, not to blame them. She's willing to come alongside others and help them in their time of need, sharing their lived experience. I remember Mum saying she used to think that God was hard and sent bad things to her because she behaved so badly when she was younger. She now says, you know what? I think there might be something to this praying malarkey. She now has hope for a better future for her and her children. When I started this role, my husband said, don't ever promise them anything that you know you can't deliver, because it's the false hope that kills them. We know God will never leave us nor forsake us, and that no matter how bleak the circumstances, he's right there with us, upholding us, sending us exactly what we need, exactly when we need it. We too have hope.
I really don't feel like there's much that we need to say or add to what's being said. So we want to thank Lydia, Julie and Em for sharing and being so open with us this morning.
Yeah.
This morning we really want to encourage you to hope. If you feel that you need a little bit more hope, ask God. Ask him to refresh your soul with renewed hope. In Ephesians 1:18 it says this, I pray that the eyes of your heart may be enlightened, in order that you may know the hope which he has called you, the riches of his glorious inheritance in his holy people. And you know, when Paul was writing this, things weren't exactly rosy and cosy. He was sitting in prison. So can I remind you this morning that even when everything around you may not look familiar, there's still hope. We don't need to have it all together to offer that hope to other people, to come alongside them and to help them and to shine God's love into their situation. Em's already said this verse. It says, Jeremiah 29:11, I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. God has plans for you and they involve hope. It's so important that they involve hope. They're specifically mentioned there. So today, be encouraged. Ask God to give you more hope. Ask God to direct it. And finally, I want to encourage you to offer that hope in God to other people. Just like these three ladies have done so well this morning. And you know what? You may not know the impact that it has, but trust me, it will bless other people like it's blessed us here this morning. It will bless you in doing it, and it will bless God too.